Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Marathons HQ, where we do movie marathons connected to new releases and where we enjoy and review some of our favorite movies. This video is part of the Avengers Doomsday Movie Marathon, where we are watching one movie every week as we prepare for the release of Avengers Doomsday in December 2026. Today we are discussing The Wolverine, released in 2013 and directed by James Mangold. This is the second solo movie of Wolverine following the ill-fated X-Men Origins Wolverine. Overall, I don't like this movie. There's not much to like, but there's also not much to dislike. There's just kind of not much in this movie. There are a few things that I'd like to discuss, but it's a pretty bland and unremarkable movie overall, to be honest. Positives, I would mention the setting in Japan, Hugh Jackman's performance and physique, and one of the villains, Shinjin. For negatives, I'll mention the rest of the villains, the romance subplot, and because it's an X-Men movie, continuity. Spoilers ahead for The Wolverine. So the first positive is setting this movie in Japan. It's really unique in that regard. So Logan is brought to Japan and then it's a fish out of water. He's such a gruff, kind of rough and tumble guy, and then he's brought into a very different context, and they do a lot of the silly tropes where he's being given a bath and he's uncomfortable and all these local customs that he doesn't really understand. So they play it off for a lot of laughs, but it's pretty good. I do like what they do with him there, and it's just a unique setting with a lot of unique characters. And in the comics, Logan does have a lot of dealings with Japan, so I do like how they bring that into this movie and incorporate it there. Another positive is Hugh Jackman's performance and his physique. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but when he was announced as the actor who would portray Wolverine, a lot of the public was not happy, kind of for a silly reason. In the comics, Wolverine's very short and Hugh Jackman is not. So it's kind of a silly thing, but a lot of people just weren't happy about it. He's proven to be exceptional in the role. He's very feral and very wild. And in this movie, I feel like he looks the best he ever has. They do kind of some hair flippy things, which doesn't look silly, but it's an homage to the comics where he's got very silly hair. But in this one, I think he's at his best hair. Compared to all the other appearances. And then his physique is just crazy. They did some crazy stuff with his training, and he looks massive and very strong. So I think this is the best he's looked, and he's just so good in the role. So it's a positive just to see him do his Wolverine thing again. And then another positive is the casting and performance of one of the villains. So the villain is Shinjin, and he's the son of the character who invites Logan back to Japan in the first place, and he's portrayed by Hiroyuki Sanada, and I think he's really good. He's pretty imposing and pretty scary, and I think they do some cool things with him in the role. He's not the only villain in the movie, unfortunately, and the other ones I don't think are very good, but I think he's great. And then another cool tidbit is this actor appears in the MCU again later. So this is technically not the MCU, it's a different universe. But Hiroyuki Sanada does appear in Avengers Endgame. He's how do you describe him? Kind of the villain that Hawkeye is chasing down in Japan when Black Widow goes and tells him to come back and gives him hope. It's the same actor. Probably not the same character. They're listed as different things in the credits, but kind of cool to see him in two different roles here, although they are technically two universes. But here in The Wolverine, I think he's a pretty good presence and a pretty good villain. And for negatives, I would mention the other villains in the movie. So we have Dr. Green, also known as Viper, played by Svetlana Kodchenkova, and Ichiro Yashida, played by Haruhiko Yamanouchi. I just think they are in different movies from each other and different movies from the movie that we're in. Their performances are weird and cartoony and campy, and there is some humor in The Wolverine, but it feels more serious, and then these villains just don't match. And then at the end we get the Silver Samurai, which is also from the comics, so it's like they brought some cool elements from the comics. I just don't think they gel. They just don't work together in this story. Another negative is the romance subplot. So in this movie we get introduced to Mariko Yashida, Ichiro's granddaughter and Senjin's daughter, and she's played by Teo Okamoto, and she's from the comics, so that's kind of cool. She's been a love interest for Logan. But in this movie, they have this romance, and I just didn't feel any chemistry between them. I don't think the performances worked together. And then in the meantime, when Logan's kind of has this romance, I guess, with Mariko, he's having these hallucinations of Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen. And so she met her end in X-Men: The Last Stand at the hands of Logan. So he's tormented about that because he loved her. But that love story, I think, just didn't really work in the original X-Men trilogy. So then in this movie, which happens afterwards, to carry it on with Jean Grey just seemed like a useless decision a useless plot point to have in there. So they carry on with that, and then they introduce Mariko, and then so there's like this love triangle, but one of them's a hallucination. Just the whole romantic part of this didn't work for me. And the last negative is the continuity. And to be fair, in this X-Men movie, finally the continuity isn't egregiously bad. I think in just about every other X-Men or X-Men related movie that I've discussed, there's been some continuity that just makes no sense. This one is kind of self-contained. Logan gets his adamantium claws cut off at the end, but then it does make sense that his body would regrow the bone claws. It never really makes sense that the adamantium claws are his bone claws because they're a different shape, or at least they're always portrayed as a different shape, but that's kind of just a visual thing. And then the only other continuity error which could conceivably make sense is in X-Men Origins Wolverine, we see Logan and his half-brother Victor Creed, played by Liev Schreiber, doing a montage of all the wars that they're in, and we do see them in World War II together. So in the Wolverine movie, we see another element to that story where Logan was involved in World War II, this time in Japan. So those two things can coexist. It was a long enough war that he could have been in those two different areas. But he was a prisoner of war at this point, so he got captured at some point and was held in that well for a period of time. So the continuity could line up. Now, how might the Wolverine connect to Avengers Doomsday? So the Wolverine in this movie is not the same Wolverine as we see in the movie Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a different version of the character, so there shouldn't be continuity from this movie to that version of Wolverine. And also, Hugh Jackman is not confirmed on the list for Avengers Doomsday, so it's likely that that version of Wolverine or other variants will not appear in Doomsday, but I do think he is going to come back, likely in the Secret Wars movie that comes in December 2027. I also haven't been mentioning many mid-credit scenes or post-credit scenes in these reviews. They're not part of the movie, in my opinion. But in this one, there is a post-credit scene where Wolverine meets Patrick Stewart, portraying Charles Xavier, and Ian McKellen as Eric Lensher. So both of those actors and characters are confirmed to be in Avengers Doomsday. So I don't think there's continuity between this movie and that movie, but those characters will reappear in Doomsday. So that's my review of The Wolverine. What do you think of this movie, and how do you think it might connect to Avengers Doomsday? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. Follow Movie Marathons HQ on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and also on Letterboxd, where you can see the list of all the movies for this movie marathon and other past and future marathons that we have going on there. The next movie in this marathon is Thor: The Dark World. See you at the movies.